Austin, Dan, welcome to the podcast booth.
Thanks
How's
for
your day
having us.
gone so far?
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah?
How about you?
It's been fantastic. It's been very busy, very back-to-back, but that's what we like.
Yeah.
So before I kick things off, I think it's appropriate just to get a bit of background on both of you, like how you got to where you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Awesome.
So maybe, Austin, I'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, so my career has really been in healthcare. I started with M&A in healthcare, worked at a firm that was responsible for the large majority of healthcare M&A transactions in the United States. Eventually switched over more to the operations side, strategic investment opportunities for health systems, and it was in this work that I really realized firsthand how broken healthcare is in the United States. That became the inspiration for what Neural, 50 iterations later, is now. I'll pass it over to Dane. He's got much more of an interesting background than I.
I got started with computational biology a long time ago, and I got much better at the computational side as the biology side, and so I didn't want to wear a white coat for my job, so I got quickly sucked into the first .com boom as a Big Four, Big Five consultant for different efforts, and eventually made my way to the intelligence community and DoD. And from there, along a magical carpet ride for lots of different projects and programs and consumer-facing technologies through the years that have stayed the test of time, some of them, and some of them blew up. But they're actually gone up to space and they blew up. But I've had everything in between, building large systems to look at ourselves in the mirror from space, or very small things in between.
Okay, amazing. I'm sitting with the big dogs. Okay, so before I go into neurotechnologies and what you guys actually do, I read the stat that the global wellness economy is $4.4 trillion business. But I feel like the wellness space has been really slow to embrace technology, which kind of seems odd. So A, why has it been so slow? And B, what does today look like and what does tomorrow look like?
Right. Yeah. So there's health and wellness industry, and there's also healthcare industries. Some overlap, but for the most part, MECE. With healthcare, it's just overregulated. I mean, we've created a system where we have entirely perverse incentives. You have a third-party payer system. So who's really the consumer? Who's really the person who's actually communicating directly with the health system for care? And you have fee-for-service. So how are we incentivizing quality of care, cost-effective care? We're actually just billing on volume of care.
Right.
And so while the majority of first world countries have accelerated preventative medicine, holistic care, and reduced cost of care and increased longevity, we've done the opposite. We're the worst performing first world country in terms of life expectancy at 72 years, and we're spending twice as much. By 2028, 20% of our GDP on healthcare. So what we're seeking to do is say, all right, healthcare's tried to change regulation in the United States for decades, and it's been incredibly slow. So what do we have to do? We have to create an ecosystem that actually empowers not the patient, but the person.
Okay.
And provide the opportunity for that person to be empowered by their information and use it to facilitate personalized goods and services.
Okay, great. So I was checking out your website, and I was trying to work out what your mission is in neurotechnologies. And you wrote, to foster sovereignty over humanity's information and unleash human potential. Well, what does that mean?
It means answer the question, who am I?
Okay.
The Neural Portal is basically the home of your neural avatar. This is coming out in 2023. It's one of Dan's masterpieces.
Okay.
And what that really means is, imagine if there was a world where you could consolidate in an efficient way, not just your personal health information, but your genetic information.
Okay.
All your retail purchases, and any IoT data you have. And for doing so, you'd be rewarded in our monetized token. Now that in itself is a business because that information also is all siloed.
Okay.
Have you ever tried to get your personal health information?
Listen, my mom texted me the other day being like, just so you know, your blood type is B negative. And I was like, didn't know. Thank you.
Pretty important thing to know.
Pretty important information right there.
And so that's the first aspect of what we're building. The second aspect is, if we're going to provide the opportunity for people to consolidate their most valuable information, because your personal information is 300 times more valuable than depersonalized data that Facebook and Google knows are making money off of. If we're going to empower people to consolidate it, shouldn't we also give them the opportunity to decide what to do with it?
Yeah, agreed.
And so we're providing the opportunity for people to sell, rent, or share their information, set the price, determine who can access it or who can even bid on it.
Yep.
And they can sell it as many times as they want.
And how does that work? What does it look like? Maybe, Dan, you can talk a little to that.
Yeah, so there are analogies that pretty well aware of that you've used. There's you can't just go charge someone arbitrary amounts of money for putting an ad on your website. There's tracking mechanisms, there's transparency in that, kind of, but there's tracking mechanisms, and that creates the opportunity, the arbitrage between the supply and demand for advertising, which Google took all the world's information and is trying to organize it so that they can highly target you specifically. And what we're trying to do is, instead of having someone target you that you may not want to be targeted for B negative blood type, we're going to create a living, breathing digital twin of you.
Okay.
That organizes all the information, which is a petabyte scale problem per person.
Okay.
So it's kind of daunting. It's a long-term effort, but we're going to start with things that are attainable.
Okay. It's a hypothetical situation. I'm a world-class tennis player. And you create a digital avatar for me. What is the benefit for me, and how do I go about building this digital avatar? Because surely I input as time goes by, as maybe I get better as a tennis player, maybe I have a health problem. Like, how does this work?
Actually, I actually am a tennis player, played in college.
Oh, okay.
And Serena Williams, if you ever listen to this is out of love for you as a wonderful tennis player. Have you ever read the story of Serena when she was giving birth?
I have not, no.
So she went in, she had medication she was supposed to take, hadn't been taking it because she was pregnant, went in and said, look, I have a condition where there's a risk that I'll form blood clots in my lungs because I haven't been taking this medication. Let her doctor know. And they're like, oh, okay. Started reporting while she was going into labor that she was having serious pain. Doctors were like, oh, well, we don't see anything here.
Yeah.
They didn't have access to her historic data.
Okay.
She almost died at childbirth. And this is one of the most successful athletes of all time. You would imagine they'd have exceptional care.
Yeah.
So there's your answer to what it looks like if you're a tennis player. I mean, if she had just had her information in one place and could say, look, here's proof.
Yeah.
There's no more ambiguity in the situation at all.
So the platform also allows someone like that as an influencer to not only command their own information, but then actually incentivize other people to participate in their own avatar's expansion as an influencer. So you're not going to be going to Twitter for health information or competing against Serena Williams for whatever it might be. But our platform allows the whole spectrum of that to unfold.
And you touched upon it earlier in terms about being rewarded. How does that work?
So we'll be monetizing our token. I'm not going to say exactly when. And for all of the information they're uploading, depending on what type of information, for example, genetic information, more valuable, you'll be rewarded at a higher tranche.
Yeah.
But you actually rewarded in our token for doing these things. And there's automated API integration. I'll let Dan speak to that in greater detail. That actually would allow us to pull that information on your behalf. HIPAA compliance protects this information as yours. And so now you can be automatically pulling this information, earning money for this in our token, and then decide what you want to sell and how many times you want to sell it and who can purchase it.
Nice. And also, on the flip side, are you rewarded for any kind of physical activity as well?
Absolutely.
Yep. So cool. Okay. Nice.
And how you share data is what I call enclaving, where we take specific parts that you want to have out there.
Yep.
And it could be intimate data that you don't want any part of people knowing that that's your data. It gets anonymized and put on the blockchain, and people can tap it if they're allowed to do it. And the data itself is obfuscated with our own cybersecurity and hashing techniques.
Okay.
So that's how we encrypt the data a couple times over, so that when it goes out to the blockchain, it's not actually your data. It's only that transaction would know something about them.
Okay, super interesting. I was actually talking to someone who was involved in self-sovereign identity and how that would work in the future. So imagine you walk into a bar and the bartender wants to know that you're over the age of 21 or 18. Like, giving away your information without actually telling your birthday, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So actually you preempted my next question, which is like, what are the challenges in this space? I imagine there are ethical, cybersecurity, privacy challenges, like a whole number
all
of them.
Of the whole kit caboodle. But I think one of the things that we will be really holding true, and part of the core DNA of our organization, is abiding by ethical standards that are ancient, if you will, and that will drive quite a bit of our decision making about how data is accessed. Because currently the way practitioners, like a medical doctor, is abiding by the Hippocratic Oath. Insurance companies definitely are not.
Yeah.
So there is a cognitive dissonance, and you can feel it when you try to tap your own data. Then they're granting you access to data that they claim that they own. And how many states? 26 states, something like that.
Don't remember the exact number, but yeah, you're probably close.
There's some almost a little over half the states say that the provider owns your data, not you. You can access it, but that's not your data. So if you think about that ethically, that's just your most precious data about you is owned by someone else. That's not right. So that really drives who we are as a company and our DNA.
Okay. And what do you see as like your biggest roadblocks moving forward?
I think what we're doing is there's two things that I think are roadblocks. Regulation.
Yeah, of course.
There's standards and specifications that have been around for a while, but they don't really enable ecosystems. They're enabling the providers to talk to each other, but not for you as an individual. Well, if you're sitting in your basement and you think about some idea and you want to make an application for that on the neural platform, how do you do that? Right now, there's nothing like that out there, and you would be able to tap into the AWS of healthcare information on our platform.
And is there anyone else doing what you're doing?
Not that we
like
know.
this.
Maybe bits and pieces, but not a holistic approach.
So I was saying to Austin earlier that I hate asking generalistic questions, but I'm now about to ask one. Only because having spoken to you, I'm really intrigued to see what you think of the space, and that is touching upon Web3. So obviously, everyone's talking about it, and as with any kind of technology that is pegged to be disruptive, there's a lot of skepticism as well. What are the applications for Web3 technologies across the wellness space? Is there an application, or are we just looking for a problem to solve?
Well, I think if you look at, I've ridden the wave of all of it. So if you look at Web 1, Web 2, whatever it is, if you think about, say, open source technology, people are like, oh, that's dumb. I don't trust it. I don't know anything about it. But now there's tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap value for open source software. That in itself is a very good analogy for Web3 type technologies. We don't really care as an organization about its current inception.
Of course.
It's just too finite right now with what we're trying to do. But the enablers, like the blockchain specific way of protecting data and having untrusted environments, is perfect for what we want it to. And that's really like, if you think about spreadsheets and then MySQL. No one really in their right mind would invest in MySQL, but it's the platforms like AWS put MySQL on their platform, which then generated tons of consumption patterns that we couldn't even think of.
Right.
So that's what we really want to do.
And I think it's interesting because I'll let Dan talk to about the technical side all day, but you said what's one of the biggest roadblocks? Let's stop talking about Web3.
Yeah.
And let's just talk 100%. About utility.
Yeah, and jargon.
Jargon.
Because there's so problem. Much of it, right?
Do you see any companies that have like web ninjas or whatever as their titles that they hold? I think those are long gone.
I mean, I have worked in industries that have just are so jargon fueled, and it's driven me nuts because I'm like, why complicate things? And let's just like make it simple, and then you're going to be able to onboard all your customers. Okay, before we like kind of finish up, what does your roadmap look like?
So I think 2023, part of it is playing out the market and understanding what's really happening, but it will be first led by release of the portal, beta portal, then launch of token, then alpha portal, then launch of beta marketplace, and then alpha marketplace. Okay. And this will all happen, everything goes planned, 2023.
Okay, nice. And Dan, if you were to look at this industry in like 5 years' time, what would you idealistically hope to be the case, and what do you think realistically is going to be the case?
Well, I hope, and I think that's what a lot of the community here is hoping as well, that this type of technology brings value very close to your wallet, if not in your wallet.
Right.
And consumers haven't really felt that because there's been so many different people in the middle that prevent you from truly accessing the value that you're generating, either from consuming some data, consuming some service, whatever it might be. So I think my hope is that we get really close to having healthcare data right in your wallet, so that it's not only something that you can tap into, but you're gaining value from it.
Okay, nice. And for everyone out there today, what do you want them to take away from you guys being here? What do you want them to learn?
Oh, man. That's a fun one. You could sell your genomics data for tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay. Dan?
I don't think we're a Web3 story by any means. We are utilizing it, but we're kind of a future of this, where this industry should go, where you utilize the technology not for use case, but for generating platforms that generate value, truly value.
Yeah, and I was kind of being a little bit sarcastic. I think the way I think about it is you're unique, so wouldn't it be cool if you could own that?
Yeah, I agree. And so for those that don't know you, where can they find you?
Socials, Neural Labs, actually. I'm changing the name to Neural Labs.
Okay.
And you can reach out to me directly on social media as well. Mm-hmm. Imagine the same with Dan.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Dan, it was so nice to see you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.